Welcome to this week's episode of Inside the Headset presented by CoachComm. This week, we sit down with CSU Pueblo Defensive Coordinator Caid Faske. In this conversation, Coach Faske discusses how he got his start as a student assistant, the uniqueness of Division II football, and his AFCA 35 under 35 experience. But first, a word from CoachComm.
Deuce left, check with me. If they're in quarters match, we're going to Pittsburgh or Ohio.
They're in zero.
Let's go Hippo, Seattle, wide choice. If we call the protection right, it's 6.
When a play call is the difference between winning and losing, your headset choice could be your most important decision. When the call counts, CoachComm is the only choice for clear, dependable communication. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
We got it, guys. Good job.
Now, let's get inside the headset with Coach Faske.
Coach, what's happening, man? How you doing?
Doing good. How are you, sir?
Man, I'm doing all right. Everything going good your way?
It's going great.
Yes, sir. Well, let's go ahead and get this podcast rolling, man. Always excited to talk with you and catch up with you. I feel like I've known you for a decade, and I looked, as I was kind of putting a bottle together, like, oh yeah, I have known him for a decade. I used to run into you on the roads in DFW. You were always beating me to every last school I was trying to get to, man. I figured I need to shake your hand, figure out how you were, mapping those days out to be so effective. But yeah, man, let's go ahead into the beginning of this whole deal. Played your ball at West Texas A&M.
Yep.
The question I have for you before we get started is, when did you know you want to be a ball coach?
I wanted to be a coach probably since the time I was about 15 years old. I used to want to be a lawyer, and then I found out how much school they had to go to, and I said, "To hell with that. I'm not going to be doing that." I hated school, but I wanted to be a coach, and throughout my high school career, that was kind of what my goal was to either be a high school coach or possibly a sports writer, something involved with sports. Obviously, that's my passion. But wanted to be a high school coach, and kind of the one thing that really brought me to that, to where I just fell in love with wanting to be a coach. One night I did a camp at the University of Texas back in 07 or 08. It was right when Will Muschamp had just got there. And I did a camp there, and I was working with that position group that he was coaching at the time, and just got to see the guy's passion and his energy and his love for football. And he's one of my favorite coaches of all time. He's been dominant as a defense coordinator and just a coach in general. And I just saw the passion of the man and him flying around and having fun, enjoying what he's doing. And I love football, obviously. And that's where I was like, you know what, this is something I might really love doing and what I want to pursue. And that's from then on, from the age of 15 to now, still my passion for coaching is all time high, and just love it. Just the relationships you can build with kids, the different backgrounds of kids that you get, and the impacts you can make on their life on and off the field is such a blessing and such a rewarding aspect of this whole job. And it's something I've always been in love with and still love waking up every day coming to this. It's not a job. People always talk about, never work a day in your life, or whatever that quote is, and wake up at 5 a.m. every morning, ready to rock and roll, and loving what I do, love the guys I work with, love the kids I get to coach and be around. So it's a major blessing. This job's been a blast being a football coach since, I got the privilege of getting to start early in my career, obviously, and it's been a great blessing.
Yeah, man. Will Muschamp is a guy that I've unfortunately hadn't met yet, and this, obviously I share a lot of the same thoughts when I was in a profession, and stepping away was kind of tough, but getting to meet the guys that have this passion, right, kind of sit in this role, and even share the podcast with a lot of these guys has been so awesome, to see guys be effective. And you're just at a camp, spending an hour, maybe 2 hours with the guy, and he was infectious enough, with the guy that probably wasn't going to sign the University of Texas. No offense, just only knowing.
No doubt, I'll be the first one to tell you.
Yeah, but obviously having that passion, because you know what camp mode's like. It's easy to get out there and be like, I don't see anybody that and come play for us here at Pueblo. Let me let the GAs go and coach them, but to still show up with that passion, man, that's awesome. That interaction was that impactful on you and enough for you to remember. Yeah, you kind of made mention of getting your career started there after playing there at West Texas A&M, but your career was kind of cut a little short, and
Yeah.
you had a head start in the profession. So how did everything go down to get you going? And I guess more importantly, how did the coaches even know you had the passion to get in the profession?
Yeah. So, I only got to do 1 year of college football, and I got a sickness that, I wasn't going to be able to play anymore and whatnot. And my head coach at the time, Don Carthel at West Texas A&M, he knew I wanted to be a coach. He recruited me in high school, and we had talked about it. His son, Colby Carthel, who is my DC there at West Texas A&M, now head coach at SFA, he was actually one of my professors in my kinesiology classes, and his wife, Sarah, who was an assistant volleyball coach there at WT, was a professor of mine as well. Back in those D2 days, you were teaching if you're a coach, very similar to high school type of classes and whatnot. So those two knew I wanted to be coaching just with my degree field. And whenever my playing career got cut short due to the sicknesses and stuff like that, Don set me down. He's like, "Hey, I know you want to be a coach. How about you stay with your teammates here and start learning from us and being able to put us on your resume and see what it does for your career." And at that time, I just wanted to be a high school coach. I hadn't thought about college just yet. And it took about one semester of coaching college football and just being in the recruiting side of things,
Right.
coaching on Saturdays, the prep, the fun part of the, breaking down people and the chess match of, the schematics of out scheming somebody. Those, I fell in love with those instantly. But the big thing was the recruiting side of things, the relationships. I'm, a social butterfly type of guy. Anybody that knows me, I'll talk to the damn wall.
That's right.
So I love that part of getting to meet kids and families and being in people's homes and getting to meet them from people from different backgrounds. And it was a ton of fun. That's what really drew me in, was the recruiting side of things and really getting to, get out there and pick the team that you're going to have. People all the time, talk about, if you want to be a really good football team, you got to go recruit really good players. And, recruiting really good players and having really good players makes you look a hell of a lot better as a football coach, and those are things that stood out to me like, man, this is what I need to be doing. And I felt like I was pretty good at it from an early start. And I could see that this could be something I wanted to do and was, definitely had some success with it and just fell in love with it.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about myself at 19 years old after my first year of ball, and the immaturity that kind of just goes along with being a 19-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, been a part of the profession. There's a certain amount of maturity that you absolutely have to be disciplined enough to wake up early in the morning and grind through a day and maintain positive relationships with your peers in terms of being a coach. How did you approach that part of being such a young student coach? Did you still enjoy just being a college student, or did you kind of flip that switch to, hey, this is my life right here?
Yeah, no, I flipped the switch, and I love to have a good time with people. Like I said, I'm very social, but the moment that happened, I really flipped the switch on it, and I dove 100% into the coaching mode of things, and to where I tried to, have the lifestyle and the mindset of a full-time type of coach, and I had the young coach mentality as well. I'm going to be the first one in, the last one out. And there was a lot of mornings where I'm waking up at 4:30 in the morning, getting in the office and trying to just jumpstart my day from a recruiting standpoint, because there's going to be certain things I was going to miss because of classes and my breakdown responsibilities, my, whatever I need to do from the position coaching side of things of, getting things ready for the guy I was working with or my DC, just doing my part. There was a lot of early mornings, a lot of late nights, obviously. And the maturity side of things, just with my teammates now that I was, coaching and whatnot, they were all pretty great about it.
Yeah.
They knew what my passion was. And a lot of my teammates were kinesiology majors as well. So they knew I wanted to be a coach and that they wanted to as well. And they respected it. And they knew, why I got a jump start, in my career, because I didn't get to play as long as them. But the biggest thing also that really helps you, that side of things, is still having the friendship part of it, off the field, saying what's up to them and still being cool with them. Yeah, you can't go party with them and hang out with them and whatnot, but you can still have that friendship side of things and be cool with them and whatnot. But the biggest part of it, that really helped me out was being a credible source for whenever they had questions, knowing our playbook inside and out and knowing the different techniques that were going to help put them in really good position. I was a big film guy. I loved watching tape and finding different ways to, scheme up somebody and different techniques and whatnot that would help our guys succeed on Saturday, and just finding ways to make them tick and find different drills that would really help, build up their performance and whatnot. And so it was good. I never had an issue with any of my buddies, coaching them or anything like that. They took it. And, things I saw, because they knew how much time I was pouring into and how much it meant to me. And they knew I wasn't just going to be going out there and just saying random BS. It was going to be something that was truly meaningful and that could help them. Because, I tell it to young coaches all the time here and when I've been at SFA, Commerce, all that, like, hey, if you've got a good idea, bring it up to me. And if it's really good and it's something beneficial, I'll have you speak in front of the whole room about it. That way you take the ownership of it. The boys in the room see that you're passionate about it and you've really dug down deep to find this. There's been so many times where just the littlest thing can make a difference in a game.
Absolutely.
Seeing a run pass key from an offensive tackle can win you a playoff game. It did. 2012, Shattern State. Garrett Gilkey was the left tackle for Shattern State, who went on to play for the Browns for 3 years or so. We could tell when it was runner pass based off his stance, and that helped us beat those guys in the first round of the playoffs, and that took us all the way to the semifinals my first year of coaching. Little things like that. So I talk about it still to this day with our players, with our young coaches when watching tape. Hey, if you see something that you think could benefit us, let me know, because, as the DC, you're trying to watch all 11 guys. You're trying to make sure your staff's in check, the players are in check, the scheme's in check, yada, yada. There's things you're going to miss. And that's why I tell kids all the time, like, hey, if you find something that you think is truly something, hell, let me know, and I'm going to take note of it. If it's something, we're going to use it. Yeah. Like, I'm not an ego guy at all. Like, I don't care, what our scheme is. If there's something that's going to help us win the game, I'm all about it. Let's go. It's not my way or the highway. It's my defense and whatnot, and I make the final call of it. But if there's something that's going to help us win, I'm all about it. Let's go.
Yeah, I think that's huge in so many facets, because I think, there's an opportunity to empower young guys to be able to speak up, to be able to have a voice and be able to, to be able to realize that they can have a part of the game plan. Just reflecting back to being a young coach, like in some situations when you're understaffed, you don't have a choice because you're so much a part of the kind of the game plan in terms of breaking film down. But, I definitely remember being a young coach, maybe not thinking of, I got something that's going to help us win, but maybe having something to say and being a little intimidated by the room. And, just being able to have a coordinator say, hey, look, man, you see something, say something, because we all have the same goal on Saturday, and that's to get that W, man. And if you can provide something, that's huge. So kudos to you for having that aspect.
And I think the other thing with that, Mario, that I think is a plus is it's just like the same thing that we talk about, with players and whatnot. When a player knows that a coach loves him and cares about him on and off the field and truly cares about him, that guy's going to run through a wall for you. Mm-hmm. And he's going to get even more than what he ever has for that coach. I feel like it's the same way with young coaches and assistant coaches. If they know that you truly care about them,
right,
outside of work, at work, you're truly looking out for their personal, the personal side of things, and you care about them and you want their voice to be heard. You want that feedback. You're involving them, having that ownership. I think that makes young coaches want to work even harder and respect you more and really care about you and want to do great for you.
Right.
I think there's definitely a piece of that, and that's something I've always carried around in my career, and I've always believed in, like there's that saying, you treat the janitor just as good as you treat the CEO of the company. And that's how I've always been with young coaches. There's a lot of coaches out there that, we all know it, don't treat the young coaches the same as everybody else.
Absolutely.
They talk down on I'm not about that, because hell, same time, you never know who that young coach is going to be one day. That guy might be your boss. You never know. And that's not really even that side of things. It's just treating people right. That's
treat people
what
right.
my mom taught me, and a lot of my mentors taught me is treat everybody the exact same, and that's something I've always lived by, and I always will.
Absolutely, man. I'm a firm believer. The profession itself is tough enough. Why do we have to make it so much tougher on each other with just that? Yeah,
No question.
There was definitely that aspect at some point in time where there's a little bit of the rite of passage, the kind of the hazing of a little bit of a GA and things like that. But I mean, I think that time has kind of came and went for the most part. But you mentioned that you wanted to do high school. You got the bug. Unfortunately, all good things kind of come to an end. You graduate. It's time to move on to a new situation. And, you actually kind of got to dig through this on some of your bios, but you were at University of North Texas for just a couple months in the spring of 2015. Talk about how that job came about, and let's just go ahead and clump it all together. Obviously, you weren't there for very long. You make a big decision, probably was fired up for the opportunity to go to North Texas, but another opportunity comes along. Just talk about how you navigated it, number one, taking the job, and then number two, having to get the courage up to say, hey, coach, look, something came up. I got to go somewhere else.
Yeah, so I had been doing camps for North Texas ever since I got into coaching, getting in the DFW Metroplex because I helped recruit that area. And I was that young coach trying to find guys. I was doing camps all over the place during the summers when everybody was doing traveling camps. There was one summer, it was my first summer at Commerce. Matter of fact, I did 21 camps in a summer because I was just hustling, trying to find kids left and right, because we couldn't get every kid to Commerce for a camp. So I was going everywhere. It was the same thing when I was at WT. I was going to Louisiana Tech. I was working at UNT. I was doing Rice camps, because I was just trying to find as many kids as possible because we weren't going to get all those top kids to Canyon, Texas for our prospect camp. Canyon, Texas is a little bit of ways away from the DFW Metroplex in Houston and whatnot. So I would be doing camps for them at UNT. Dan McCarney was the head coach at that time, and he was a phenomenal human being, one of my favorite people of all time. Great head coach, great man, great football mind, great D-line coach. He was huge for my career and whatnot, but he would allow me to come work their camps in the summer. And he was great about allowing all sorts of D2 coaches, D3 come and work camps and get to meet kids and whatnot. As long as you were putting in work, he was all about it. And I got to meet a lot of that staff there. Noah Joseph was the main man that got me my connection there in North Texas. And the other connection was Kevin Patrick, who's now the D-line coach at South Florida, where he was originally with Coach McCarney there a long time ago. But no, I got to be with KP and Coach Joseph. And whenever I was leaving WT, Coach Joseph was on his way out, but me and KP had such a really good relationship and always were talking. He's like, hey, my GA is going to be leaving here soon. I want you to start coming to work here. And it was just going to be an easy transition into that role.
Yeah.
So those first couple months, I was a volunteer, whatnot. And there was definitely perks of being at Division I to where, food was, paid for and whatnot by older coaches and just the facility in general. And I was living with my mom's best friend at the time. She lived right down the road from Denton. So I was living there for free and then driving there. So I didn't have too many expenses. I was newly married, being away from my wife for a couple months sucked, obviously, but it is what it is. And, but no, those it was actually 4 months being there at North Texas was an awesome deal. Learned a lot in a short amount of time. Just with Coach McCarney, Coach Kosh, that whole staff, I still keep up to date with a lot of those guys and a lot of really damn good ball coaches on that staff. And was enjoying it, loving it. We signed one of the best recruiting classes there during my time at UNT. That was such an impactful class with Coach Luttrell's first couple of years there. He had the benefits of that group, and they were some heavy hitters in that class that were really good. But unfortunately, I did have to leave early. And the reason why, I was going to be the next defensive GA and was about to be getting paid and whatnot. Colby Carthel, my DC at West Texas A&M, was now the head coach at Texas A&M-Commerce and was doing really good. He called me and offered me a full-time position at the age of, 21 to be the D-line coach at Commerce. And, 21-year-old here, and he's going to be full-time benefits and make money and not to have to pay a lot in a smaller town. About Commerce America. I mean, it was very enticing. And to be back with Coach Carthel was a huge thing because I knew the man who he was. I knew what they were doing there at Commerce was special. And And it was a great fit from his whole staff, were guys I had worked with at WT or guys that I had, been acquaintances with during my time, those first 3 years of coaching college football. And it was a great staff to jump on and be a part of. So I jumped on the opportunity because I knew there was something special brewing there. And yeah, it did suck leaving Division I and something that I wanted to be a D1 GA at that time. But getting a chance to run your own room and be the position coach was something you couldn't turn down. That's something I tell young coaches all the time, is getting to run your own room and being the position coach is such a impactful, influential piece of your journey and on your resume.
Yeah.
And you do see a lot of D2 position coaches that are still young get plucked to be D1 GAs, because it's great for those, FBS coaches to see, okay, this kid that I'm about to bring in as my GA has been a position coach. He can run a room. He can be the D tackles coach behind the scenes, and I can have the D ends. It's great for those FBS coaches to know this guy has some skin in the game. Absolutely. He's not just going to be a grunt worker who's going to be able to run a computer. This guy can actually coach and recruit as well to help me out and make my job easier.
Amen. Well, obviously taking that opportunity was huge. I think one of the hard parts that I've seen, and have advised on with probably guys that are a little bit more closer to me than more random calls, but I've had guys that maybe not necessarily the same situation, but bottom line is they got to go to the boss man and have a tough convo. Hey, coach, I got to leave. How did you approach that as a 20, 21-year-old young man? You just got an opportunity to be at UNT, kind of like you mentioned, kind of right trajectory, somewhere you want it to be, but you got another good opportunity. How'd you approach going to talk to your head ball coach about that?
Yeah, Coach McCarney was great about it. I mean, he was all about it. He was super excited. A full-time gig at the age of 21. Like he said, Caid, go jump on that. Like, that's a huge deal. Like, did it suck I was leaving there? And, was he upset from that piece of losing me? Yes. But he was all for the personal gain of what it was going to be for me in my career, getting to be a position coach at that age and watching me grow from there. So he was great about it. He told me to jump on the opportunity and run with it. And it was a major blessing, from him getting to hear that. And I always respect him and appreciate him for always being upfront and honest with me and just being a phenomenal man, and getting to see him run his program and how he did things from the academic side of things and ways with kids and whatnot is something I still take with me to this day. The importance that he put on every kid and their academics and making sure kids graduate is something that, I stress to our current assistant coaches as well, and we've had the highest back-to-back GPAs here at CSU Pueblo in the fall and spring that they've had in school history. And, I try to have a big piece in the academic side of things here, being the academic coordinator as well as the defensive coordinator, because it matters, setting our guys up for success to be successful the next 60 plus years after football is critical. And I want people to get their degrees and make as most as they can of the situation they're in, and that's something I picked up from Coach McCarney and I always, kept in my arsenal, in my brain of, things to use to help propel our kids and our staff.
Absolutely.
So, but no, he was great with it all.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, obviously you get to reunite with not a very long time spent away from each other, but you got to reunite there with Coach Carthel there at Texas A&M-Commerce, and I don't know who was at Commerce before you, but they left you guys a mess. Whoever that was. No, I'm just kidding. I was on the staff before you guys came in, and I always tell this story, especially Drew Hollinshead was on not too long ago, and I tell him the story about legitimately bags packed. I'm on to my next journey, and we had some issues with the administration a little bit. I mean, you were there. You kind of know the situation to a certain extent. But I remember driving off, and it's unbelievable because this is a honest to God story. I remember driving off, looking in my rearview mirror, saying, "They're never going to win there." It wasn't a Carthel, it wasn't anybody. It was just the issues that were kind of existing in that place. And I was just a young guy, and I didn't realize that the administration could change, and obviously things change and all that kind of stuff. But it sticks out to me because it was a lesson. A couple years later, you guys are playing the national championship, just playing unbelievable football, pretty quick. addressed some roster issues, got some really good players in there relatively fast. I mean, you were burning up the roads yourself. Just talk to us a little bit about it. I mean, I guess I kind of spoiled the end of the story. Obviously, you guys ultimately come and win a national championship at a program that had been just kind of meh, for about the past 15 years or so.
Yeah.
What was it like to kind of be a part of a program fresh as a 21-year-old, own room, own recruiting area? How did you go approach and attack that situation?
I think you said the word exactly, attack. And that's something that we did from the recruiting side of things, especially. We were going to go hunt the best of the best in JUCO football that weren't going to be able to qualify for, the Division I that they had signed with. We were keeping an eye on kids' academics, and the moment they were not able to qualify, we were jumping all over them. There's multiple players that were really great for us there at Commerce that should have been playing Power 5 football, G5 football, and the moment that they didn't make them grades, I was on their phone, whether it was texting or calling, hunting them and trying to get them there. And we got a lot of guys there that were some of our best players, obviously, from that. But, the biggest thing of flipping that place, and I was able to walk in, after Coach Carthel won their first conference championship there in 2014, I wasn't part of that squad. They had a lot of momentum, and they had a very heavy transfer roster that was really, really salty and good and won a lot of games. But a lot of those guys had graduated, so we were going to be starting off kind of fresh a little bit and need to find some key pieces. And biggest thing was getting on the road recruiting, and finding the best JUCO transfers there were. The portal wasn't a thing at that time, but the biggest thing that we built that whole program off of was winning your backyard. And I've had the Fort Worth area, recruiting wise for the majority of my career.
Yeah.
And being so close, from Commerce to there, I told everybody we were going to dominate that. If there's a dude in our backyard, they're going to be in Commerce, Texas, unless they're going somewhere bigger. And I felt like we went after kids really hard in our backyard. And that's the ultimate thing that really flipped our roster, was finding the best talent in DFW. And then the other area that we really struck gold on was the San Antonio Syntex area. And I think those are two areas that get under recruited, to be real, by the majority of people coaching. Yeah. And I think there's a ton of talent in those two areas, and we found some of our best players in those two areas. And how Division II works. We signed heavy classes each year because we wanted to establish depth. And then, there's the part of Division II where kids are going to fall out of love with the game during fall camp. Those dog days of fall camp, those freshmen that aren't the big fish on campus no more. They're just the little fish in a pond.
Right.
They want out. So that was the product of signing big classes is possibly, after year one, this class could be half its size. So we always wanted to make sure we were building depth and we were going to be in a good spot if we lost kids. And it's crazy, to think about, everybody talks about how Division II scholarships work. You got to kind of nickel and dime things and package different things. And you got to get strategic. And some of our best players there in Commerce were our lower end money guys initially, and then they blossom after a year. And you see the guys that you were giving the highest scholarships to being the biggest duds you had sometimes. And that's just kind of things you learn as you evaluate kids and grow as a coach. And, but no, our high school classes that we had signed there were the biggest thing that helped flip us. And then, I had a tremendous AD in Ryan Ivey, who's the AD now at Louisiana Tech, who was my AD at SFA during my whole, time there at SFA.
Yeah.
He was such a catalyst on, flipping that university from the admin side of things, athletic, pictures, things, the branding. He put Commerce on the map.
Amen.
And then Coach Carthel coming in there and flipping it from a recruiting side of things and getting some guys in there and winning games, got the momentum rolling. And, we had a lot of great athletic admin there during my time, and a lot of great coaches come through there at all sports. And, it was impactful, and it was a fun time to be a Commerce Lion and getting to flip those things. And then, seeing all the lumps that we took at times with those young kids, getting those kids playing time, it really paid off.
Absolutely.
In 2017, we made a fun run to the national championship, something that is unforgettable. And like you talked about I remember, back in 2012, our last season game was against Commerce at WT, and we had to beat them to get into the D2 national playoffs, and we beat them 49-7 that day.
Yeah.
And I looked at that team. I was like, man, these guys are bad. And the town was dead. It was a ghost town. Like it wasn't a good vibe there.
Right.
And you know exactly kind of what I'm talking about a little bit, but it shows what a couple people can do
Absolutely.
to change the momentum of a town, the face of a town, the university athletic department. And Ryan Ivey and Colby Carthel did that hand in hand together. And then the president was phenomenal and becoming influential there. Dr. Dan Jones is a great man. And it was so awesome to see the transition of what was a bottom dweller become top dog. And it was fun being a part of that climb and building that place up. And it's something that means a lot to me. Commerce, Texas is a special place to me. Coached a lot of great kids there and had a blast there. My wife and I loved it there. There's a lot of people who aren't a fan of Commerce, Texas because it's so small and all that, but I'm a small town guy when it comes down to it, and it had enough in the town for me to be, happy with. And then shoot, at the same time, you're 30 minutes away from Rockwall, Texas, and you're 45 minutes away from Dallas.
Yeah.
Like if you get bored, drive.
Yeah, stop in the car.
You can fix that. So it was, I loved it. My time there was something I talk about still this day. Our corners coach here at CSUP played linebacker for me at Commerce, and we talk about Commerce still this day, and it was a lot of fun. It was definitely a blessing getting to be there for those 4 great years. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, man. That was obviously not really having a stamp on any of that other than just being there a little bit prior. That was special for me to see. Like I said, it was a big part of my maturity in the coaching profession, to be honest with you, just seeing a place that I felt so, I don't want to say negatively about, because I love my experience there, man. It was, I'm like you, it was an awesome town, man. I learned so much ball there, all that kind of stuff. But my notion when I drove off is that you can't win here, and just to see, like you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it just takes some pieces. It takes some flexibility from a coaching staff if you don't have those particular pieces in other areas. We were doing things a certain way, but it's interesting enough. I remember on signing days when I was at Commerce, we'd always look up, the conference, Lone Star at the time, and it would be like, hey, we signed 23 kids. Angelo State signed 27 kids, and West Texas A&M would always have 47, 53, and then just seeing that model kind of brought in, and seeing that little kid that maybe I didn't think was good enough is all of a sudden making big time plays in 2017 to help you guys win. It was just crazy, just the evaluation of talent and letting those guys mature. So man, it was awesome to see. Congrats on that again. I know that was a while ago.
The highest class you saw there at WT, this before my time starting there, was, I think Coach Carthel signed 71 guys one time.
Yeah.
In that class, I calculated back when I was there was 5 or 6 NFL guys out of that high school class. And Dustin Vaughn, who's one of the greatest D2 quarterbacks of all time, was part of that class. Sergio Castillo, one of the greatest kickers of all time in D2 history. And those are very low money guys. I mean, it's crazy that class that they signed and what it dwindled down to, and were some of the best players we had there from 2012 and 2013 when we made some big runs there at WT. So that's one thing I've always been a big proponent of, is big classes, because of what it can resort to.
Yeah,
and I think there's some positives there.
Yeah, and if you haven't had that D2 experience, I'm every level kind of has their own little unique deals, but D2, attrition is just. Attrition is just such a big part of Division II football. I mean, you go and sign a class. I remember having 14 receivers, and I'm walking in the next season like, golly, we got to get somebody here before fall camp starts. We just don't got enough guys, and it can happen just like that. And obviously, I think with some of the changes in the NCAA legislation and stuff like that, I think a lot of levels are kind of seeing some of those situations now. But this is not anything new at the D2 level, to be brutally honest. But yeah, man. So after your time, your staff's time at Texas A&M-Commerce, you get the opportunity to go to Stephen F. Austin. Obviously, there's a lot of tie-in between Carthel going there, obviously, and then Ryan Ivey been there as the athletic director. Yep. So obviously a natural kind of transition. What did you take? What what were some of the things that you took? Because obviously, we just put a big emphasis on Division II. You start getting at the FCS level, it's a different, it's a semi-different game in terms of you got more scholarships now. Some guys are expecting a little bit more of a scholarship, when they're walking in. How did you guys go and approach specifically recruiting? Kind of relocate. Still East Texas. East Texas is so weird because Texarkana is East Texas, and so is Lufkin, and they're about 4 hours apart. But it's still in that East Texas vibe, but it's just a different area. How did you guys approach recruiting once you got to SFA?
It was still the same mindset. We were going to attack it heavily. I mean, we were going to dominate in recruiting and find the best high school talent, and a lot of that came with our camps. We did traveling camps. I believe that we were the main cast. Everybody's kind of starting to do it now, but at that time we were the only ones doing it at SFA. And, we were doing 12 camps in a span of a week and traveling everywhere and seeing 2,000 total kids when it's all said and done. I think that was a huge piece of getting our brand out there and finding more and more kids that we possibly, didn't know about. And there's so many late bloomers that come about in the Houston area and East Texas in general and whatnot. But, we dominated the state in recruiting, I felt like, and going after the right kids and putting our brand out there. And we trickled into Louisiana a little bit. Just, you're that close to Louisiana. Like, it's crazy not to be in there. And there's such great talent there that you can get. And then, we trickled into Arkansas a little bit, but we never went into Oklahoma or anything like that. But, we were going to dominate Texas, obviously, because that's our backyard. That's our home state. We're going to dominate that. We're going to dominate East Texas, and Houston and DFW were equal distances away from us. We were going to find the best there. The recruiting side of things, we had to be even better at our eval process, just because, okay, you can't sign the class of 50 like we were doing at Commerce. That's where you had to really be thorough with your evaluation of the kid. And it had to be a longer process of making sure this kid was going to be the right one that you could sign, because as well as I do, the allotments of what you have per class and just the roster management of it all. And that was something that was a learning curve, but we learned pretty quickly, after 1 year of it. But, there wasn't much of a difference from the recruiting side of things. It was trying to get the best guys possible, be on top of kids who maybe, they had a bunch of G5 offers and whatnot, going into the summer and whatnot, but keeping track of those kids, having a relationship with those kids, because those offers can fall off if they don't commit in time, or somebody else commits in front of them, and then boom, they're falling into our lap, and the biggest thing we were going to do is just be on top of the best in the state of Texas. Everybody was going to have an area in the state of Texas and patrol it and make sure we weren't going to lose any kids. There was no stone unturned. Yeah. And I felt like that was a very impactful piece of why we were, really good at SFA, why we didn't inherit a great situation there at all. It was, it was a mess. And from just on the field stuff and then off the field stuff especially, but we were able to put out a lot of fires and show those kids that we love them and we care about them, and bring in some really good players as well from either transfers or high school. And we got that thing flipped really fast. And it was a blast being there for 4 years. And, the adjustment was easy to me. It wasn't anything that just was earth shattering or mind blowing. We were able to just keep doing our thing. And our process of what we did things at Commerce was very similar to exactly what we did at Nacogdoches. And it was a fun time, getting to be in that FCS atmosphere and seeing how that side of ball works from the money side of things and whatnot. But it was a lot of fun, and enjoyed it. And same thing, had, coached with a lot of great coaches there and coached a lot of great players, and got to be a part of a lot of amazing people's lives in the Nacogdoches community. And it was a great 4 years there, and definitely miss that place and love it. Always rooting for the Jacks. Yeah. For sure. All my guys are still there. Coach Carthell's there, and the majority of the people I've been with my whole career, except for this past year, are still there. So I'm a big Lumberjack supporter and rooting for them all the time. We have games at 2 p.m. here in Pueblo, and by the time I'm done, the Jacks are kicking off. So I'm able to watch every game and, kind of be a fan and be rooting for those guys and seeing, keeping up to date with them.
Absolutely, man. Well, I'm gonna ask you a question here about Coach Carthel and just what he's meant to you in your career. But
Yeah.
I forgot this part. What is it? Is it 20 or 30 that runs right there under Commerce? Is it 20 or is it 30? The highway? I always confuse the two.
Oh man. I want to say it's 30.
I believe it's 30. Yeah. So
Yeah.
whichever one it was, at one point in time, I'm over in Louisiana and I was just driving through, and I didn't know Coach Carthel very well, but for some reason I ended up on the phone with him, and he's like, "Hey man, swing on by. I'd love to see an old line, old Commerce line. This is when he was in Commerce." And so I swing by. Now, this is where I was. You guys are having crazy success. I had a player, I think, that transferred after me that was transferred with me that was pretty good. It's just my first time meeting him, and I walked into to his office, and he had the big old office there. I don't know if you guys changed it up, but he had the big old head coach's office there, and it was coaches just lounged in there. Where it was just such a like family vibe on the staff. I don't know if it was like that all the time, but what I knew was that you guys had been around each other for a long time. I knew that all you guys that went to SFA. I know a couple guys that have went on to other staffs, and it was hard for them to leave, even for better job, for more money. It was like hard for them to leave SFA, and I was just always envious of that culture, and I've had the opportunity to work in a couple of those type of jobs where it's like, man, I wish I could just keep this job forever. I don't care if my pay ever goes up or whatever. Just good dudes, you enjoy it. And I've always appreciated that about Coach Carthel. He's always been willing to help. We've had him on the podcast. He's done some speaking stuff for me in the past. And, I mean, just a phenomenal dude. What has he meant to you in your career, man?
I mean, I could talk about him for an hour, probably. Means a lot to me. He's my mentor. I talk to him about once or twice a week. He means a lot to me, and he's been very impactful and influential in my growth as a coach, as a man, and getting to be with him for 10 years was something that's irreplaceable and priceless. And what I was able to learn from him as a husband and father and then a coach are things that mean a lot to me that I'm using today with my kids, with my wife, with the kids I coach, with the staff I have. And he taught me a lot. And you talk about how you envied being a part of that culture and whatnot. It is a special culture. The quality of life of, working for Coach Carthel is high. And there's a reason why a lot of people have stuck around with him for 10 plus years. It's because of the way he treats you, the way he treats your family. And it is a very big family vibe. Family means everything there. And, it's just a fun time to be around. He's a great person to just cut it up with and have a great time, and he's just got an infectious personality that everybody wants to be around. When he goes to AFCA convention, whatnot, he's like the damn town mayor. Everybody's around him and he's holding court, and that's how you truly know how impactful a person is and how much people think of you whenever people are lined up to just talk with you because they love being around you. And the best thing about him is he always made everybody, feel cared about and felt like your input meant something, and he treated everybody really, really well. And my time with him, I wouldn't trade for anything, and loved working with him. Hopefully one day again, we can get back together and work together again. It was very tough leaving him and Sarah and his kids and the staff that we had there at SFA to take this opportunity that I have now at CSU Pueblo. But it was something I couldn't turn down, and he understood that. He knew what my goal was, and it was a very, emotional goodbye, obviously, because we had been through a lot together during our, my coaching career with him. And he was a big piece of where I am today, propelling me as a coach from 2012 to now. And I mean, I'm going on my 13th season coaching, and he's been a huge piece of all 13 seasons. Even the 2 seasons I was not with him when I was at WT still, and he was at Commerce, we were still talking and staying close, and I was asking him questions and whatnot still, just because I wanted to learn as much as I could from a man who was highly successful and did it the right way. But yeah, he's awesome. He's the best.
As you kind of alluded to there a second ago, it was tough for you to make the decision to take that opportunity there at CSU Pueblo. Obviously, it's a defensive coordinator position, tremendous opportunity for you at a really good program. How did that come about? How did you even get in a position to have to make that tough decision to take the job?
Well, yeah. So the previous 2 off seasons before I had left, I had been done some DC interviews and whatnot, and I had that itch to become a defense coordinator, because I felt like that was my next jump in my path as a coach. I've been a D-line coach my whole career, and, I wanted that chance to be a defensive coordinator. And so I had that itch, and I've been doing interviews and whatnot, and there were certain jobs that, they offered me the job, but there was just something, God telling me, hey, this isn't where you're meant to be. This isn't part of the plan. And, talking with all my mentors about, okay, is this the right move and whatnot, and hearing things out. So, there's 2 years of saying no to jobs and continuing, to look for the right thing that could be the next best thing for my path and whatnot. But how CSU Pueblo came about, Coach Vigil, who's my head coach here, he was our running backs coach at SFA and our recruiting coordinator for the first 2 years during our time at SFA. And I've known Coach Vigil since he was back at Colorado Mesa and I just went blank, Fort Hays State. And so we've always ran into each other during recruiting, and we always met up at the AFCA convention, went to the FCA prayer breakfast and the Sunday service. That's where me and him got to know each other really, really well. And then obviously we worked together hand in hand for 2 years at SFA and always stayed close and maintained a really good relationship. And he, landed one of the best jobs in Division II in his home state of Colorado State Pueblo. And whenever I had heard of the opportunity was coming about, he hit me up and he wanted to know what my interest level was in being the DC. And my ears perked up because Pueblo is a spot that I have envied and thought about and have coached against many times in my career. And I knew what the culture is like here, how special it is, and just the program of where it was at and where it's been and where it's going now with us. I mean, it was, and then being 4 hours closer to my hometown of Amarillo, Texas, where my in-laws are at, my parents are at, my grandparents, all my best friends, everybody's there back in Amarillo. Like it was too good to be true. And to work with a man like Phil Vihu, who is a phenomenal father, husband, Christian man, coach, there's a lot of similarities to Coach Carthel here. And with a guy that I trust and I know has my back and I've got his back, there was something I couldn't turn down. And to be a DC at the age of 29 for a top D2 powerhouse, I was like, you're crazy if you say no to this. And it was hard, leaving FCS football and SFA for coming down back to D2. Everybody talks about, once you go down, it's hard to get back up. Well, I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about what was best for my family and my career, and getting that chance to be a defensive coordinator. And Coach Vigil's known how long I've wanted to be a DC, and he believed in me and gave me that shot. And I'll be forever grateful for him giving me this opportunity. And it's been a blast. It's been such a fun year getting to be in this position. And, there's definitely the stressful side of things where there's a lot of days where I'm like, man, sure wish I could just be in that position, coach again. But
that's right.
But no, the best thing about it is being a part of a staff that you love being with. These guys are with you, working alongside you, blood, sweat, and tears, all that, from the players and the coaching staff. Like, this is the best staff I've ever been a part of. And I said to multiple people, just from guys you can really relate to and love to be with outside of football.
Yeah.
And I haven't been able to say that everywhere I've been. There's been certain people where you could tolerate them at work and that's about it. But this group that we have here is special, and you love working with them every day and being around them. And then the kids are phenomenal. Coach Riston, who was here before Coach Vigil, did a phenomenal job building this culture up and making this place what it is. And these kids are just built different, and they're very like-minded and blue-collar, hard-nosed, and tough. And those are kids that I love being around, that you can coach hard and pour into on and off the field, and that love it, and they love being around you, and they love you and they love your family. And it's special here, man. It's something that is priceless, and that, I love what we're doing here. And I think we've got some special things cooking here. The same type of vibes I had back in 2017 before, making that run in the national championship, of what we knew we had a good team. We had some pieces to make a run. I have that same feeling right now. And yeah, it's all talk right now, and there's a lot of work that's obviously got to be done. The stars got to align just right.
That's right.
To possibly make a run. And I know that, but I had that same type of feeling. And I think we're about to take this place to a different level than where it's been. It's been at the highest level. It won the national championship back in 2014. Well, I'm hoping we're about to be back after a 10-year hiatus, there in I almost said Frisco, Texas, McKinney, Texas.
Yeah.
And I'd love to be playing for that thing. And that's the goal. That's what our mindset is. But first thing is to win the RMAC, obviously. And CSU Pueblo hasn't won the RMAC in a few years. It's time to change that this year. And then after we, win the conference championship, let's try and piece together a win each week in the playoffs and try to find our way back in Texas and have a nice little Texas homecoming.
Damn, Coach, you got me ready to suit up right now, man.
Trust me, I'm fired up. I'm ready to go, man. I'm ready for. I know everybody loves summer and getting vacation and whatnot, and me and my wife go on our 10-year anniversary vacation. But
you ready to go?
I'm fired up. Well, camp to get here, man. I'm foaming at the mouth, ready to go.
Oh man, you got room for an overweight corner on the roster, man.
Let's go. We'll play Tampa too. We'll just let you control the flag.
Yeah, there we go. Just let me stand there, man. Oh man, well, hey, you know what? And this is honest to God truth. Like, one of the things I'm super proud of, from my standpoint, is not my 35 on 35 program, but the 35 on 35 program here, and. So there's some places that have a few more guys that somehow end up migrating on the same staff, over time. And your special teams coordinator, Mac Alexander, yourself, you were part of the 35 and 35. Braylon Brown, I got to put a foot up his butt. I used to coach him
that's every day
at ULM, man. And what a awesome individual, man. So as the offensive coordinator there, man, like I have to pull up the scores every Saturday for CSU Pueblo, man, just because those three special guys there. But speaking of the 35 on 35 program, you were a part of that. You were part of one of the earlier classes, man, and just continue to watch your career trajectory continues to just lift up that program, and others that have been a part of it or continuing to do so. What did that program mean to you, and why should others try to be involved in that?
It was such a benefit to my career, and such a phenomenal group to be a part of. My classes, man, you talk about some dudes in that class that are doing big things, head coaches and defensive coordinators, at the highest level, and guys that have been really successful from the recruiting side of things and who they are as a coach, who they are as a person. Like, my class that we had is phenomenal. It was such a great benefit for me in my career, getting to be a part of the 35 under 35, getting to meet the people I did and making the network connections is priceless. The multiple speakers that we got to learn from during, that 13-hour day that we're in there, it's a grind, but it is an awesome grind, and getting to meet different people and learn things that you don't talk about every day, that your head coach doesn't teach you and whatnot, how to interview correctly, how to manage money. The list goes on and on and on. It is something that every coach who wants to be a possible coordinator, head coach, or move up in this profession and, be that guy, everybody talks about the big names in college football. They want to be the next head coach of Oregon, like Dan Lanning and everybody like that, the young hot shot coaches. I mean, if you want to be that guy and you want to go far in this profession, you want to be big time in this profession, like people say, 35 under 35 is the way to go, because you're going to see a different element of networking and brotherhood and learning things that aren't talked about enough, things that really make a program go. And it was great. And it's a great fraternity to be a part of. I love the social you put on every year, and getting to meet different guys. It's just like recruiting, getting to meet different guys from different backgrounds and talking ball, talking about their families. And that's one of my funnest times, is getting to see those guys once a year at the AFCA. And, we're there for 3 to 4 hours, drinking and having a good time and just talking ball and asking how their family is and it's our time to connect and be back together and bond. And it's been a great fraternity of men to be a part of. And not just because there's some big time name coach there, it's because of getting to learn from them on how they coach their kids, how they're running their program, how they conduct themselves as a man and father and husband. Like there's a lot of things that go way past the football side of learning of things, and that you can learn from the men that you're going to be a part of in the 35 under 35. And I think it's a great tool for your career to build off of and make an impact in other people's lives. Coach. So it's been great for me. I'm so thankful to be a part of that group, and so glad I was, accepted into that group back in 2019. And it's something I love.
Well, Coach, we definitely are proud to have you a part of one of our classes, man. Appreciate you, like I said, continue to bump that standard up every year as you go out and conduct yourself professionally and have success on the field. Before I let you go to here, Coach, I want to give you the opportunity to kind of plug your social media, just in case guys want to follow you, keep up with you, send you a message or two, ask some questions. So if you got a Twitter account, you wouldn't mind sharing.
Yeah, my Twitter account is just Coach Faske, CoachFaske. Pretty self-explanatory there, but yeah, I'm on Twitter. Kind of have an Instagram page. I wouldn't really put that one out there. I don't hardly look at that one. My wife made me get that one, but I've got Facebook as well, my name, and I look at TikTok every once in a while. Don't think I have an account there. I just browse the videos and whatnot my wife and my family sends me and some of my players and coaches. But no, Twitter's the main way. If you want to connect, hit me up. I'm all about helping young coaches out. I'm all about networking and connecting and talking ball, man. I don't care what level you are. I'm all about it. Let's talk ball, because some of the best coaches I know are in Division III football and NAIA football. It doesn't matter that you're at Oregon or if you're at Western Oregon. Yeah. Like I'm all about learning and finding little bits of information that can help my team, help me, help our staff propel. And I'm all about learning and growing as a coach every single day. I don't think you can ever learn and grow enough. I think you've got to be a constant sponge all the time.
Amen. I couldn't attest more to that, man. I appreciate the opportunity. It's always great catching up with you, Coach. I know I'll see you here soon, and look forward to keeping up with you guys, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks, Coach.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
You too.
CoachComm has been delivering tough headsets for tough teams for more than 31 years. It's why 97% of FBS teams and thousands of high schools across the country rely on CoachComm. Get the best for your team. Visit CoachComm.com for more info.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset, presented by CoachComm. If you'd like to learn more about this week's episode, head over to AFCA.com. There, you can access every episode and find corresponding show notes. Remember, you can catch every episode of Inside the Headset presented by CoachComm on wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. While you're there, we'd love for you to take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Your feedback helps us improve and grow. Keep up with the latest news by following us on social media. Connect with us at Inside the Headset, and remember to tag us when you share your favorite episodes. For more updates on all things AFCA, be sure to follow the @WeAreAFCA social media accounts. If you're not a part of the AFCA community yet, visit AFCA.com to join thousands of NFL, college, and high school coaches nationwide and across the globe. Elevate your coaching game with an AFCA membership. You'll gain exclusive access to the annual AFCA convention, magazine, digital library, and AFCA Insider email. Stay up to date with the latest stories and news on the AFCA website. More than just a convention, the AFCA offers continuous education, guidance, networking, and more. Celebrate the past and shape the future with the AFCA. It's about fostering exceptional coaches who create outstanding teams and even better individuals. Invest in your skills and make a lasting impact today by engaging with the AFCA. Your journey starts here.